Welcome back. In this presentation, I will go over the NCRP Portfolio Guide. I will be reading Chapter 1 as it is written. You have the option of reading along with me, reading it to yourself, or just listening to the audio file. Introduction to Writing a Portfolio. Submission of the master's portfolio is one of the last steps of graduate study and is a serious, scholarly, and formal undertaking by graduate students to demonstrate their ability to investigate, develop, and synthesize materials pertaining to negotiation, conflict resolution, and peace building. The portfolio that is submitted not only reflects the student's scholarship, but also becomes a permanent example of scholarship at California State University, Dominguez Hills. This being so, it is assumed that a student will produce a work of the highest possible quality. Before submitting a portfolio, students must have met all requirements for advancement to candidacy, as specified in the California State University Dominguez Hills catalog, and all coursework must either be completed or concurrent in the semester that the portfolio is submitted. The NCRP portfolio should contain information about the graduate student's past accomplishments in the curriculum vitae, interpretation of the learning outcomes in the program review, reflections on how their best scholarly papers in the reflections and artifacts, and vision of how to apply the learning to resolve future conflicts. Steps in writing and submitting a digital portfolio. The following steps provide an outline for writing and securing approval of the portfolio. The need for adequate planning cannot be overemphasized. Because of the deadline for approval, it is recommended that students allow at least 6 months to complete the portfolio. Online students often take longer than one term and will be granted an incomplete without extenuating circumstances to have adequate time to complete the portfolio. To ensure a successful and timely completion, students should schedule a phone or video conference with the portfolio advisor to discuss mastery of the program learning outcomes, appropriate artifacts, and a future program. Establish a timeline with the portfolio advisor and follow it carefully to ensure meeting university deadlines. Create a peer review team with at least 2 other students at the portfolio stage of the NCRP program. Read carefully and follow exactly the format requirements in the NCRP Portfolio Guide and the publication manual of the American Psychological Association 6th edition. It is best to follow the required format in both the guide and the manual from the start. This will save time and avoid costly delays. Follow the outlines and rubrics presented in this guide to ensure that the work meets graduate level scholarship requirement. Frequently contact the portfolio advisor, ask questions, and keep the advisor informed of progress made through email, phone, or video conference. And submit the preliminary draft as a Microsoft Word document to the portfolio advisor and make necessary revisions. The purpose of students submitting a preliminary draft to receive feedback on content and layout from the portfolio advisor. The portfolio advisor will not provide line-by-line editing of grammar, usage, mechanics, or citations. Note A. Several revisions may be necessary before submission of a final draft. Submit a final draft to the portfolio advisor. The portfolio advisor submits the final draft to the NCRP program coordinator. Above all, the student assumes ultimate responsibility for the written quality of the work and for following the requirements of the NCRP Portfolio Guide. Note B. The NCRP Portfolio Guide is a user manual. It is not a model for formatting the portfolio. Note C. The terms student, author, and candidate are used interchangeably throughout this guide. Language requirements. All portfolios must be written in standard English, be error-free upon final submission to the portfolio advisor, and meet all standards of graduate level writing. To assist candidates in meeting these basic requirements, separate sections of this guide fully explain specific requirements. In addition, all requirements of the publication manual of the American Psychological Association 6th edition must be followed. Use of foreign quotations. If quotations are in a language other than English, a translation or a paraphrase which adequately renders the meaning of the passage must immediately follow the quote. If the student chooses to use a translation other than his or her own, the source must be cited. Epigraphs and short paraphrases do not need to be translated. Adequate planning. It is the desire of everyone involved that the approval of the portfolio goes as smoothly as possible. To minimize problems in the approval process, it is recommended that students maintain close communications with the portfolio advisor, carefully edit the manuscript for standard English correctness, format, and style manual requirements, ascertain how much time the portfolio advisor will need to review drafts and submit the portfolio well in advance of the Graduate Studies Office deadline date, and allow sufficient time for revising drafts based on the portfolio advisor's feedback. It is assumed that the portfolio will be submitted free of errors to the NCRP Department Office by the portfolio advisor. Submission of the work on time does not guarantee graduation. Only one resubmission to correct a small number of minor errors is allowed in a given semester. If major revisions are needed, the portfolio advisor will request the student to resubmit the following semester and to file a change of graduation form with the NCRP graduate program and the graduation unit. Most common format and writing errors. It is expected that all portfolios submitted for final approval will adhere strictly to the format requirements and meet the standards of graduate level writing. The preliminary pages and main body of the digital portfolio must be submitted in Microsoft Word. Following are guidelines that will aid in avoiding the most common errors. Follow all the format requirements of the NCRP Portfolio Guide exactly. Email the portfolio advisor for clarification of details in this manual. Follow the publication manual of the American Psychological Association, 6th edition, exactly for citations within text, endnotes or footnotes, citations, references, and bibliographies, labeling and citing tables and figures, quotations, any other element not prescribed in the NCRP Portfolio Guide. Do not attempt to use previously submitted portfolios as an example, as formatting requirements change from year to year. Avoid evaluative adjectives. Students should report rather than evaluate mastery of the learning outcomes in their program review and reflections. Separate series within a paragraph with lowercase letters in parentheses. Separate sentences or paragraphs in a series with an Arabic numeral followed by a period. Use a bulleted list to separate 3 or more elements. Put commas and periods inside quotation marks, except when a citation immediately follows the quote. Quotations of 40 words or greater should be placed in block quotations. Avoid the use of slashes to indicate options such as and, slash, or, and he, slash, she. Choose either and or. Write out he or she. Only use Latin abbreviations in parenthetical materials. Abbreviations and acronyms must be completely written out at first use and followed by its abbreviation or acronym in parentheses. Do not justify lines. In general, spell out numbers 0 through 9 and use Arabic numerals for 10 or above. Spell out a number that begins a sentence. Use the ampersand in parenthetical materials. Use the word and in non-parenthetical citations or series. Always state on one hand before you refer to the other hand. Only cite the author's last name and year of publication for paraphrased material. Only cite author's last name, year of publication, and page number for quoted material. Avoid including the author's first names, degrees, institutional affiliations, literature titles, or URLs within text citations. Avoid logical fallacies such as appeal to pity, ignorance, or unqualified authority. Hasty generalizations, false cause, slippery slope, or false analogies. Avoid sentence fragments. Avoid comma splices and run-on sentences. Be sure subjects and verbs agree to number. Check to see that pronouns have clear antecedents. Do not mix verb tenses in paragraphs. Be consistent. Consistently stay in the first person or third person throughout each section. Do not use second person at all. Stay in the past tense for all sections except the future program. The future program may be written in the future tense. Do not bold any of the text other than headers. However, the use of bold is acceptable in any appendixes. Use the same font and 12-point size throughout the body of the portfolio, with the exception of the optional use of 10-point size within tables. The size and font in the appendix must be easily readable. Suppress widow or orphan lines in all parts of the text. A widow or orphan is a single line at the top or bottom of a page. Do not submit the preliminary pages and body of the digital portfolio in any format other than Microsoft Word. Responsibilities of the Portfolio Advisor. The Portfolio Advisor is expected to guide and counsel the student during the preparation of the portfolio. The Portfolio Advisor will suggest specific improvements in organization, form, and content. The advisor also has the responsibility for certifying that the student is competent in the subject area contained in the portfolio and is able to communicate his or her scholarly or creative efforts to others with a high degree of skill. The advisor's approval certifies that the student's portfolio demonstrates mastery of all NCRP program learning outcomes, represents scholarly work worthy of the master's degree, gives a clear and accurate description of the work performed, incorporates suggestions for improvement made by the portfolio advisor, is free of grammatical, spelling, and punctuation errors, and conforms to accepted standards of graduate writing, and follows the publication manual of the American Psychological Association 6th edition. The portfolio advisor indicates their approval by notifying the NCRP administrative coordinator and program chair. Selecting artifacts and a future program. The graduate student and his or her portfolio advisor will agree on the artifacts used to demonstrate mastery of the program learning outcomes and an appropriate written future program. To garner ideas, the student may consult with faculty members in the department. The artifact should include a reflection describing how the artifact is aligned to a NCRP program learning outcome. Demonstrate mastery of the program learning outcomes. Present only instructor-graded assignments from coursework in the NCRP program, and demonstrate original analysis or original creative work. Digital files may be attached when the media cannot be imported into Microsoft Word. Digital artifacts must be presented in a variety of appropriate compressed media, including audio such as MP3, WAV, WMA, or FLAC, graphic files such as JPEG, GIF, TIFF, or PNG, video files such as Windows Movie Video, AVI, QuickTime, or Flash, and PowerPoint is the acceptable presentation format. Digital files must be small enough for file transfer protocol to be sent as email attachments or downloading. The future program should clearly be defined in terms of the context of the existing work in the field, be feasible in scope and design, and add to the body of knowledge or creative work in the field. While complete originality is not required, care should be taken as to not duplicate existing literature. In such case, plagiarism may be involved. Plagiarism. At the heart of any university are its efforts to encourage critical thinking skills, effective communication, and above all, intellectual honesty among its students. Thus, all academic work submitted by a student as his or her own should be in his or her own unique style, words, and form. When a work is submitted that purports to be original but actually is not, the student has committed plagiarism. Plagiarism is defined by California State University Dominguez Hills as following. Quote, plagiarism is considered a gross violation of the university's academic and disciplinary standards. Plagiarism includes the following: copying of one person's work by another and claiming it as his own, false presentation of oneself as the author or creator of a work, falsely taking credit for another person's unique method of treatment or expression, falsely representing oneself as the source of ideas or expression, or the presentation of someone else's language, ideas, or works without giving that person due credit. It is not limited to written works. For example, one can plagiarize musical compositions, photographs, works of art, choreography, computer programs, or any unique creative effort. Plagiarism is cause for formal university discipline and is justification for an instructor to assign a lower grade or a failing grade in the course in which plagiarism is committed. In addition, the university may impose its own disciplinary measures. Unquote. Use of copyrighted material. The U.S. copyright law provides federal copyright protection for both published and unpublished works. Therefore, authors who wish to include quotations, illustrations, charts, graphs, musical arrangements, and so forth in their portfolios should make every effort to be sure that reproduction of the copyrighted material does not exceed the doctrine of fair use, which considers both the purpose and character of the copyrighted material. Unpublished works, as well as words published without valid copyright notice, are eligible for protection. Absence of the C word symbol does not necessarily mean that a work is in the public domain. Tabular arrangements and compilations are specifically covered under copyright law. Permission to reprint or adapt charts, tables, graphs, tabular arrangements, musical arrangements, and so forth must be sought from the copyright holder. Fair use. If a work is protected by copyright, permissions must be acquired prior to incorporation of that work into a new document. Extracts and quotations may be used to a limited extent for purposes of illustration and criticism without permission. Material that is in the public domain, such as legal codes, historical documents, and government publications, are usually not subject to copyright restrictions. If in doubt, check with the portfolio advisor. Securing permissions. Efforts to obtain permission to use material from other sources should begin well in advance of the final draft. The student is expected to acquire written permission to use the material, and evidence of such permission must be provided with the final copy of the portfolio and may be incorporated into the appendices. A statement of permission must appear in a caption or some other obvious location in the portfolio. The owner of the copyright may request that specific words or phrases be used to indicate that permission was granted. Requests for permission should be directed to the copyright holder requesting a one-time nonprofit educational use. Portfolio date. The date on the title page shall be the semester and year in which the student graduates. The actual date of graduation is determined by the registrar, depending upon completion of all requirements. The NCRP Administrative Coordinator will assist the student in determining this date. If the graduation is not cleared for the initial term applied for, the student must give a new title page on matching paper to reflect accurately the term of graduation. Use of this guide. It is the student's responsibility to become familiar with the NCRP Portfolio Guide and the Publication Manual of the American Psychological Association, and to see that all requirements are satisfactorily met. Do not attempt to follow the format of previously completed portfolios, as the guidelines may have changed. The NCRP Portfolio Advisor has established criteria for master's portfolio. The style and format requirements serve the following purposes: assist the graduate student in organizing and presenting scholarly knowledge in a standard academic format, and provide permanent evidence of the scholastic achievement of each master's degree candidate. Of the APA Style Manual. The NCRP graduate program has specified the Publication Manual of the American Psychological Association 6th edition be used in conjunction with the Portfolio Guide. The APA Publication Manual is used for the following in the portfolio: the referencing system throughout the portfolio, the list of references or work cited at the end of the work, the tables, graphs, and figures, the captions for all tables, graphs, and figures, the format for quotations, and any other element not prescribed in the portfolio guide. Thank you for listening to this introduction of portfolio guidelines. Please email me if you find any errors, accidental omissions, or contradictions in this lecture. I look forward to clarifying any details which may confuse you.